Ooh la la, les amis. What's up, everybody? This is a special GeektastiqCypha presentation with our buddy, our pal, the one and only Proto Man is here with us. How you doing, Proto
What's
Man?
up? What's up? How we all doing?
Dude, it is crazy to think you and I went to see the first Transformer film together way back in 2000.
2007 June. It was a pre-screening, which was like before it goes like public.
And we've had this discussion before. I had to watch as you didn't breathe for the first minute of that.
The Autobot arrival scene.
Yeah, you
was
just
like those sons of bitches. They did it.
Yeah, your brain froze, your body froze, and I had to be like, breathe.
And you have to understand the context back then, especially like what CG was back then,
of course. Yeah.
and people telling me like how this could be pulled off. I just. Today it's like, what can't you do with a computer and a blue screen today?
Right, right.
I mean, just look behind the scenes of Avengers Endgame. Like that whole movie was done in like,
yeah,
in like a corridor with a giant blue screen, like especially that final battle there.
It's true when you look at those clips and you're just like, okay, so it's just 10 people in a bathroom, a blue bathroom.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But back then it was very tough to imagine how that could be pulled off. And then, you look at what was adaptations up to that point, the big failures and the big successes. The big successes being the Spider-Mans and the X-Men's up to that point. Keep in mind, when that movie came out, there was no Iron Man yet. There was no, we weren't in that MCU world. So you had like a couple Batman movies, the Batman Begins stuff. So it really was, and then on the flip side of that, Double Dragon or the Street Fighter movie or like Doom, or like it's, like there was a lot of these other ones, and not to mention on the comic book side thing and cartoon side thing, like no one talks about, the Phantom, or some of those others, that just didn't find their place. So it's just it could have went either way, and
I gotta say we got lucky. Like I know that first film, in comparison to what Bumblebee did, because I would say the first Transformers film, and Bumblebee are the two most solid Transformer films out of all the films.
From a writing standpoint, beginning, middle, and end, they're two solid movies. We're not talking about box office. That's a whole other animal.
Yeah.
Then if you looked at box office numbers, then it makes you scratch your chin.
Right.
But that's a whole other discussion of different territories and what they find entertaining and everything like that.
Right.
But it's just in terms of like good movies, definitely 2007's, which Steven Spielberg had a larger part in that, and I think that what's also kind of contributed to it. Having a beginning, middle, and end that was well paced,
right?
Combined with the fact that Bumblebee movie was not Michael Bay, that was Travis Knight,
thankfully,
and so that also kind of added to a beginning, middle, and end being good.
I've been bugging Jaws. I know people who watch you will know who Jaws D is.
Of course,
they watch us know who Jaws D is. The link is right there. And Jaws, that poor boy, I've been bugging him constantly, trying to be like, okay, you got to explain to me the timeline now. What's part of the universe? What's not part of the universe? Where is this movie? This movie set in the 90s, but is it before the first Transformers movie? Are they even connected? You're one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to this. Where are we at with this timeline?
Don Murphy, who's the producer, and he's been the producer of these movies since the beginning, since the 2007 one.
Right.
When he was asked about the Bumblebee movie, where does this fit in? They weren't sure. They were honest. They were like, we'll see how well the fandom reacts to it, and then we'll pivot to that. Which is kind of like, I almost felt like it was like, if this was ridiculously successful, this will be a prequel. If it's not successful, then we'll say soft reboot or something.
Interesting.
And honestly, still to this day, we're not too sure.
Okay.
There's people that have speculation. There's all kinds of theories and splinter timelines and stuff. And now with this movie, because of the cast of characters that are associated with this movie and how that has a lot to do with those characters, not this movie, but those characters have a lot to do with time travel, how people are going, oh, maybe that's something, like Primal going back in time and changing the timeline or something.
Right.
So that's not spoilers. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
What people have been speculating online because it's the classic thing. Whenever we have any of these movies based off of previously existing brands, we start associating storylines with it. You can't have a future past X-Men movie without going, oh, well, XYZ that happened in that movie will happen here, right? And then if it doesn't, then, you know, whatever. But you kind of,
that was my one thing. Once the trailer dropped and I was just like, okay, what year is this movie supposed to be in? We've already seen, we had the original, the Shia LaBeouf films. We had Mark Wahlberg show up in one. We had a whole bunch of stuff, and I was just like, okay, cool. I get it. We're now kind of in this weird limbo space. We got to see Hot Rod, but not Hot Rod because it wasn't Hot Rod as I would have wanted Hot Rod. But that's a whole other conversation.
Well, that's most of the Bay designs, not all of them, but most.
We won't even touch on that. But when we finally got to Bumblebee and I saw Bumblebee, and I remember thinking like, okay, like especially, and we all know that opening of Bumblebee that showed us the classic G1 looking Transformers as we knew them.
Flavored. I'd like
flavor.
It still has that. I use the term American mecha. It still has that American mecha kind of twist to it and design, but with a peppering of, well, here's the G1 head sculpts and here's the G1 coloring and aesthetic. So it's kind of a happy medium of the two.
Definitely, and we needed that. I think a lot of fans were a little concerned about what was going to happen, because when you're a fan, I mean, we all know what's going on over at DC, and if you don't trust me, don't even look it up,
especially the past 24 hours.
It's been crazy. But even before DC was acting the fool, when I was seeing Transformers, I never thought they were acting the fool, but I was getting a little worried because, like you were saying, I guess I was also in that limbo when they started saying like, well, we don't know exactly where this Bumblebee movie is going to take place. And I started to feel like, okay, but as a fan, I've invested this much time. The last few movies didn't really deliver. I personally would like a reboot at this point. I'm okay if you start from scratch. We as a comic book fan, we've been seeing that. Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man trilogy that we got, we were just like, cool. Here's Andrew Garfield. And then you gave us two of those, and then here's a new kid again.
And to cut in too, when you think about it, right? We had that first Spider-Man movie, Tobey. What was that? 2001, I want to say, 2002.
Yeah, all the way back.
Less than 10 years later, we got a reboot.
Right. That's it.
Transformers started in the Bay movie started in 2007. We didn't get a reboot in 2017. So, I mean, if we're already kind of preconditioned with these MCU movies and stuff to expect a reboot after 10 years, although, to be fair, it's not hard fact, but it is something that we've had to experience, at least through Spider-Man, which is I'd like to say is a very big brand.
Very big.
So if and not to mention, like, between Into the Spider-Verse, the live action movies,
animated,
the what was the one, Far From Home, which was the one that has all three of them in it.
Yeah, the last one. Far From Home.
So already kind of conditioning audiences to go, hey, there's other continuities, other timelines, other this. Get used to that.
Yeah.
Because that exists, that then tells me that you can do that little more crazy kind of stuff and go, hey, this is a reboot.
Yeah.
And people, because I think as we also live in an information age now where if someone's confused, they're just 2 wiki pages away from getting their answer.
Yeah. That's fair.
If they care to look that up.
Yeah, you're right. We're at a point where if at any point people are just like, oh, I don't really fully understand. It's same like me. Yesterday I was talking to a buddy about Hyperion and the Squadron Supreme for Marvel, and I knew most of the team, but I didn't know the whole team by heart. And I took out, like, I was about to Google it, but I'm a real nerd, so I have my Marvel encyclopedia, and I pulled out my Marvel encyclopedia and started flipping through pages. But in all honesty, I would have been faster had I just typed in Squadron Supreme Hyperion, and I would have gotten multiple wiki pages, Marvel's wiki page, Hero wiki page, any other version of it, just so that I could explain what was going on. All that to say, back to Transformers. We got the trailer, Rise of the Beast. A lot of people have been waiting for this because Beast Wars or Beasties, depending on what country you were in.
If you were Canadian.
Yeah. Us Canucks had a very special name for some reason. Well, we know the reason, but whatever. But yeah, Captain Canuck, there you go.
Totally not planned. That's what I was deciding to wear today. I don't know why.
The universe speaks through us.
Yeah.
But you finally get something like this. You get Transformers, Rise of the Beast. People are really excited because that run, which was produced by Mainframe, right? Canadian
Mainframe Entertainment, which was a Vancouver-based animation studio that was, and this is what made them so good, was supplemented by the Canadian government.
Yeah.
Canadian government had a grant that any Canadian made content, especially animation, would get a huge tax break. And when you're talking CG, which especially back then was ridiculously expensive to do, Mainframe in Vancouver was like, we're going to take advantage of this to the max. And then they became this worldwide known company. They made Reboot, Beast Wars, Shadow Raiders. They go on to get this amazing contract with Mattel and do like 10 years of Barbie movies.
Right.
Like they were the forefront of CG. You had Pixar and you had Mainframe in the 90s. That was it. Anyone else was small potatoes just trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
So, and they did Beast Wars, and it saved the brand. I'll always say that. It saved Transformers, because Transformers was in a very weird place, leaving 94, going into 95. Generation 2 was a failure.
Yeah.
That, you know, and it was done on the cheap Generation 2, because it was just take the old episodes, put it out there, take some of the old tooling of all the old toys, repaint them a little bit and put them out there. There were some new toys too, but there was also old toys. And they literally just, Project G2 didn't work out.
Yeah.
And then they went into Beast Wars, and they you know, Hasbro, which was the one holding Transformers, they sent Beast Wars and Transformers to their sister company Kenner in Cincinnati, and they were just like, you guys figure it out. Like to them Transformers was dead. It's like, we tried, it's done. There's no such, you know, it's 95, it's 94, there's no such thing as nostalgia and people looking back and keeping brands forever. And, you know, so they're just like, you guys figure it out. And Kenner at the time they were in charge of Ghostbusters. They were in charge of trying to fix, like, you know, Star Wars for the new era with Power of the Force, because they were going into those special edition movies that were going to be in theaters. So Kenner was a more action figure company and less of a play pattern company. And like gimmicks.
I don't know if you remember those Ghostbusters, but those Ghostbusters were pretty decent. Like I had some of those Ghostbusters back then.
Well, they were a very good company with branding, because Kenner also at that time, best example, probably the biggest moneymaker for them at that time, Batman. Batman the animated series, Batman the movie stuff, anything that was happening in the 90s, like specifically Batman Returns onward, including the animated series, that was all Kenner. So they were really good at taking toys, making a show, making a brand, making a movie, and having that perfect triforce of that. And when they were given Transformers, they're like, we got this. We'll figure it out. We're going to talk to Mainframe. They're killing it with Reboot right now, you know, so like we could make something here. And when you're a cartoon that at that time, you know, today CG cartoons are a dime a dozen on Netflix, you know?
Yeah.
But back then, Beast Wars was one of 3 cartoons in all the world on television that were CG. There was no one. So that made you stand out even more. In the same way that Toy Story stood out because it was the first CG movie, Beast Wars stood out because outside of Reboot, another show called Insectors, which was a European created show, very obscure, played on YTV back in the day. There was no other CG shows at the time. So,
and I gotta say, one of the things that's impressive about what Mainframe was doing, and like you're saying, and you've laid the groundwork to explain, if you look back then, it looked pretty good. Like
it still holds up in my opinion. I know some people would argue with me, but then I always tell them, go on Netflix right now and show me any of your dime a dozen Korean CG. Right. Because that's what most of them are. Yeah. And like, they don't have the shading that Beast Wars has. They don't have the voice acting, the storytelling. Right. Like it holds up. So someone might argue it's my nostalgia and it's just me, you know, loving that series. But factually, that's how I look at it, because I look at it side by side, even with stuff that's made today in the Western market. They did recently Camp Cretaceous with Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah, yes.
And you go and you look at them and you go, hey, yeah, okay, maybe the way the models move are better now and stuff, but you don't have that shading. Still it's very simplified, and again, they didn't have the Canadian government just going, how much do you need? Yeah. What is it? 1.7 million an episode? Okay.
I would dare say one of the other examples is Star Wars Rebels, which I know people love and is fantastic, but compared to Clone Wars, when you look at the animation style, you can see that it looks like they did maybe a few less passes on the final product. And then you look at Mainframe and what they were doing, and Mainframe at their best, to me, looks
in
somewhere
1996.
Looks relatively good compared to what people could have done with Rebels, and instead decided to do less. And that's
25 plus years ago.
Right.
In computer terms, that's a lifetime.
Yo.
That was Windows 95, Windows 98. Think about that, people. That was 56K modems.
Oh my God. I don't even want to. Yeah. I don't even want to think about the data management.
But that's to give you an idea of what was the standard back then. You know,
insane.
What was around at that same point.
It's insane. It's insane when you think about it. But I with all that said, let's take a look at the trailer.
Sure.
Yeah, let's take a look at the trailer.
Let's
so
play it
we
again.
we can talk about this real quick. So we're gonna toss ourselves to the side, make that the main screen, and we're gonna watch this. I'm probably gonna keep the sound off only because I feel like those will even more things that will get us flagged. But you guys already, if you've watched this.
You're gonna have Biggie's album flag.
The trailer. If you're watching this, hopefully you've seen the trailer. Yeah. If you haven't seen this trailer, I mean, the world has transformed, folks, like we were saying. But for you, Proto Man, what was it like the first time you saw this trailer and this specific scene? And you know what? Let's even pause it. Let's pause right there.
Yeah.
What was this for you?
Well, first thing that hit me was just the fact that they were going to it's a very Optimus Primal heavy trailer, which tells me, because you look at the marketing guys, they were probably like, how are we going to sell this to them? Because it's the mainstream audience at the end of the day. You could say, oh, the hardcore fans, but it really is the mainstream audience. How are we going to sell? And it's something where we're going to start with the monkey. We're going to show you the monkey. Yeah. It's all about the monkey.
Yeah.
And that tells me it's like they clearly were like, this guy here, you know, there's
Hold
something.
On, let me zoom back in on you. Let me zoom back in on you so people can see what you're
monkey,
showing us.
You know,
yeah,
the monkey. Yeah,
yeah. So beautiful figure.
They clearly were, and I say it like that because it's I call it the disenfranchised fan, which is you were 6 years old. Yeah. The year is 1995. You watched Beast Wars on the Power Block or Beasties on YTV. Yeah. And you were into this show. You bought the toys, and then 97, 98 came around. Pokemon came out, and you were gone forever. You know?
Yeah. So
and accurate. Then you started playing video games. Now you're 10, 11, 13, 15. So this is for the people that remember that monkey. Remember that, you know, when they were 5, which, by the way, now they're 30, these people.
Jesus. Yeah, that's crazy.
So they're 30 years old, which I always say is the prime demo. Ages 25 to 35 are the prime demographic to market to for free money, because most of them, especially in the modern day and age, a lot of them still live with their parents, but they have their first job. So that's a lot more liquid income that they could be spending. I guess we could say irresponsibly, but I'll say responsibly. And that's where you get them to go see a movie, get the popcorn, get the soda, you know, do all of that. Then after they see the movie, they go, wow, that was really good. And then they go out and make an impulse purchase at Walmart of a Beast Wars toy. And then as they're leaving the Walmart holding that Optimus Primal toy, then they go, oh, hey, here's the magazine rack that's near the impulse section. Oh, there's a reprint of a Transformer comic. Right. It's that multi-layered kind of marketing. And again, you might think I'm reading too much just into this still image that we have here, but it's all part of that framework.
Yes.
Of how, because you could have opened with Optimus Prime, but we've been giving you Optimus Prime for 10 plus years now. And they look at the numbers and how it hasn't been exactly, you know, panning out. Anyways, we'll continue it. Sorry.
But one of the other things I was going to say is the impulse. You don't even have to leave the theater sometimes. When I went to see Wakanda Forever, they also had like the trinkets that you could buy when you got your popcorn, and even just those little things.
I saw that with Wonder Woman. They had like giant popcorn tins. I thought it was a garbage can, you know, like those mini garbage cans, but it's actually like that.
So those already are like impulse buys for the nostalgia kids, because it's just like, oh, because you know they're going to do stuff like that for this film as well. So let's continue.
For sure.
So we get this, who's the humans, because everyone got scared. And there's that recognition. Yep. Okay, so end of Bumblebee movie, Bumblebee turns into the Camaro.
Old school Camaro 76. Yep.
Yeah. So that's why. So for as we understand it, this film for sure is a continuation from the Bumblebee film.
For all intents and purposes, at least it's connected to the Bumblebee movie. Yes.
Right. Okay. So we'll continue. We get a Porsche. We get Anthony Ramos, great actor. If you guys haven't checked out his stuff, I definitely recommend it. He does.
I'm making a prediction now. I've never said this publicly. What's going on right here? They're going to make a toy that does that. Watch that. Where it turns from one side to the other.
180.
It's going to be a gimmicky toy, but I get a feeling they're going to. That's almost like an advertisement for that. I'm telling you, they're going to do something.
I could see it. It's pretty wild. So like one thing I just wanted.
Go ahead.
One thing. Who are we looking at here for the people?
Okay, so you have, again, this goes back to those kids who remember the monkey. Probably the most popular character, and this shot, by the way, is telling in a lot of ways. The most popular character for Transformers back in 95 to 99 was Cheetor. Cheetor, and this is through marketing. They're like, wow, Yellow seems to be the popular character with kids. Constructicons, Cheetor, Hotshot, Bumblebee. It's just how it is. We don't know why. It's like pink with girls. We don't know why. It's how it is, you know?
Yeah.
And so Cheetor was this big name back in the 90s. And every single year of Beast Wars, they always made sure there was a Cheetor toy, or they would reissue it or do a new design or repaint it. And he literally became the face of the brand in the early 2000s with Beast Machines, like over Optimus Primal. And so that's Cheetor being there. Because if you're going to have Beast Wars characters, you got to have Cheetor. And then again, doing this shot with Bumblebee here is almost kind of reaffirming, hey, here's the popular character of the 80s with the kids, with the popular character of the 90s.
Yeah. I remember when I saw this initially, I almost felt like it was a nod and like not a passing of the baton, but a kind of like, hey, I'm Bumblebee. This is the Bumblebee of this universe. Like in the Beasts, this is who holds it down like I do. Let's show us riding together, full speed, going through the whole thing, getting the hype up. You know, you get that scene, and from what I remember, a little bit of music swelling in the back. You know, you get that nostalgia feel. We're getting some wild shots.
We got some Air Razor.
Okay.
This is our first shot of Wheeljack and RC.
Now, okay, so that is Wheeljack.
Yes.
The van?
Yeah. So now... Wheeljack as a character has had a lot of different. So, like you had in the Dark of the Moon movie, there was a character called Q that some people in different kinds of script writing were saying was the character Wheeljack.
Okay.
We still never got a true name. Names are so weird with the Bay movies.
Right.
And then in the first Bumblebee movie, we see Wheeljack in the opening scene. So here's Wheeljack here. We have seen the robot mode through toys. But nothing is still set in stone yet. The toys are made way in advance before any of this stuff is done. So who knows how his final design will look. But this is Wheeljack in his VW van alt mode.
And also RC, which was...
RC looks fantastic.
RC looks... Dude, this, you know, I got to say, a lot of people were upset that we never saw RC before.
We did, but it's one of those things,
like
Dark
RC.
of the Moon, the RC triplets, blink and you'll miss it. And if you didn't know they were RC, you wouldn't know.
Exactly. Like I like what I mean for, again, like we were talking about the nostalgia factor, those kids who are now, so like us who are touching 40 and the kids who were in their like mid 30s who know the original Transformers, you know, they might have seen reruns on Fox and stuff like that. And now here they are, RC, who was always an important character. You finally get a real, like, this is a solid version of RC. It's
a very good choice of design because
the whole head and everything.
By using a motorcycle, which historically has been part of her designs throughout the years. She's always either a car or a motorcycle, depending on which version. Started with Energon back in 2003. But by using a motorcycle, from a design standpoint, motorcycles are thinner. They have less kibble, is the term. And so when you do a transformation, you'll be able to do that more traditional RC design, where one of the biggest problems that RC has faced as a toy, based on her old car design, is where do you put all those car parts? So they were able to achieve something that was much more what people would expect in terms of a silhouette of the character. And I mean, the face sculpt is awesome. It's just...
Dude, the face sculpt, and one thing that the almost Princess Leia-esque side ear bubbles.
That's Flair O'Deary. Flair O'Deary, who was a Filipino designer back in 1984, designed RC, and his exact words were, "It's Princess Leia." You know, that's what he was designing. Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, because you can see it here, especially in this trailer. You see it, like you see the lines, and you're like, I understand what you're tapping into. Okay, cool. So we continue. We get more. We get the Beast. We get
now everything's flying.
Some action. We see.
So you got the character here of Scourge.
Yeah, this is where you know what. Yeah, I'm gonna even slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, because now it's all gonna be rapid fire shooting. So this scene here, you see
I'm gonna
the back of Mirage. You see Mirage, RC. Over there is Wheeljack and Optimus with of course Noah, and I think her name's Leslie. I forget the name of the new female character.
Yeah.
And then the next shot is you're gonna see. Again, this is a lot of Peru scenes that were recorded. There's Rhinox there. You got Optimus transforming, just to, again, solidify to the people watching the trailer, this is a Transformer movie, so here's what transforming looks like. Because actually, fun fact, this is the longest we've gone without a Transformer movie since 2007.
The one that we're used to.
Yeah. Show them a transformation of the iconic Optimus Prime. You have three stasis pods hitting. Those are probably the Terracons that we just saw before. And then you have, let them come, and then boom, all the craziness.
Yeah.
They have Battle Trap, who's one of the he's the tow truck Terracon, and then for a split second, and there you just missed it. But for a split second, you have Nightbird, which you don't see anything. You got Cheetor transforming, you got Optimus Primal transforming. Just
Primal's transformation is badass.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, like, the fact that he has the mace and then the two swords, which was a throwback to the old toy, because the old toy here, since I have it here, the old toy back in the day had this little mace accessory. Let me just whip it out here just for you guys. So you had a little mace accessory back in the day,
so people can see it. Yeah.
And then what's cool is, so he has that, and then also in the same trailer, he also has his swords. That he has a double-bladed sword that you could attach together. So clearly, whoever did the character designs or anything made an effort. To kind of like really,
keep to the original. And one of the things I'll say even is, what was the last Transformer movie where they were like, there was like the sword and that whole armor thing? And
well, that was The Last Knight. That was the one just before Bumblebee movie.
I have to say, as much as I didn't like that film, I liked the idea that the Transformers, there's kind of like an armor aspect to it. And this, like, Primal, when he transforms, his transformation, and now I'll roll back a bit. The transformation of like the ape, the great gorilla, and then and then turning into like an armor. That's the thing
that was a product of Beast Wars to begin with, because when you think about animals and Transformers as a whole, before Beast Wars, it was always mechanical animals. The Dinobots that were mechanical dinosaurs. The Terracons with different Terracons, or the Predacons, different Predacons, the Predaking Predacon. They were all mechanical animals. So when they went from their alt mode to their robot mode, you didn't have to do too much covering up, because already their animal modes were pretty metallic. When Beast Wars had these, like, it's a real looking cheetah and now it's going to become a humanoid, you had to have that kind of armor kind of look to it, especially with characters like Rhinox and Dinobot in the original series, where they had to have these kind of like knight and shining armor look, because now you're covering up organic pieces with metallic pieces. So it kind of gives that look too. But
yeah, I love how clean that armor looks on him.
And there's, you see Nightbird for splits, and then see now he has the two swords. You know, so there's a lot of, and if you don't know, now you know with Biggie.
Hold on, I'm even gonna go back and slow this down a little bit more, because
you got all the like the Terracon, like skinny guys in the background. We don't know what's going on with those guys yet.
And go 25%. I mean,
so there's Nightbird for a split second, zooming by. Cheetor transformation, which is cool. Jump up in the air,
badass.
Bang. That's really nice.
I like the blades on Optimus.
Yeah. You can see
I like
in the background.
Yeah.
And his transformation is very similar to his original toy, which was pretty much, it was always kind of like stand up, you know, very, very simple kind of bang, bang, you know.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing is maintained too. Looks really good.
Yeah, this is wild.
The money shot. And you have, again, see like the two swords. So now he has the two swords like the original toy. So like clearly, whether it be the Takara designers or the people who did the animation models for the movie, there was clearly a lot of love put into it. That like respecting the source material on a visual standpoint, even right down to like its toys, accessories, you know?
Yeah. Honestly, this is like the trailer, and I had a buddy, and my buddy and I talk about this stuff regularly. He you know, huge Transformer. I'm a huge Transformers fan. He's not as big a Transformers fan, but he was always kind of making fun of the Transformers franchise because he's kind of like it almost feels like they're giving up with some of these movies. And he watched this trailer and he said to me, "Okay, I think I might actually go see this one in theaters." Because he didn't see the last one in theaters. Because
much like what Beast Wars did back then. Transformers lost itself in the 90s. Yep. Hey, we're going to do, what's that? Micro Machines are popular? Let's do Micro Masters. You know, action figures are doing well. We're going to do Action Masters. You know, like there's these guys called the Power Rangers that have colored dinosaurs. Let's take the Dinobots and color them blue, pink, purple, you know, and try to like match that. You know, with Power Rangers, that was really hot in '93. Like they were just trying to keep their head above water back then, and keeping a trademark at the end of the day, because that's what it's just really just keeping an IP and trademark alive, just so no one else gets it. And that was it.
And that's what you were telling me.
When Beast Wars came around, it changed everything, changed the game. You know. So there's Cheetor.
That's what you were telling me at one point. Yeah. So a little bit of the blink and you miss it segment, like you were telling me before. These are some of the images that we saw in the trailer, but you barely see them because they happen so
have like
fast.
an HD version and blow it up pretty much.
Yeah.
So Cheetor rocking something that's very similar to his Transmetal 2 or almost Beast Machines kind of look, which I dig. Again, if you're going to have something that's more transorganic, you know, CG of the modern era, you could pull that off. Looks really good.
Let me reload that.
And there's Rhinox. Rhinox 2 has almost like a knight in shining armor kind of thing. Again, kind of tough to see for now, but I'm pretty sure we'll see more in the future when we get some toys out there and everything. And then there's Nightbird. This was recently one of her toys leaked out. So Nightbird, what I like about it is visually her silhouette. And keep in mind, the colors on this toy might not be final. This was just from the factory. Her silhouette is exactly like her old design from the show. Generation 1 episode season 2, Enter Nightbird, if you want to see what that looked like. She was this ninja Decepticon kind of character. So I like how they have her mask and her hood kind of thing. Again, homaging the original design, respecting it, which is really cool.
And then this one.
And then we got the Air Razor design. Again, both different versions. And same thing, respecting the old Air Razor design from the old Beast Wars cartoon. So it clearly whoever worked on this, they saw what the Bumblebee movie did, like you said, especially that opening scene.
Yep.
And they said there was a positive reaction to that from the hardcore fans, especially, and going like, we want more of that, you know, like we like the whole movie, but that first 7 minutes, you know, chef's kiss, like we want more of that. And so I think that they said, okay, when we're going to revisit these designs, you know, and especially these characters for this new movie, we're going to do something like that. You know, we're gonna instead of being more, I don't know what's the word to use, just something that's more like original and just like, it's Hot Rod, but you could have called it anything, really.
Right.
And that happens with those Bay movies. Initially, it was just more designs were created, and when you would look through the creation documentation, it's like it could have been Cliff Jumper or it could have been Sideswipe. Like they just have like a short list of names where the names were attached to the designs rather than names were attached to characters. You know,
interesting.
So
I feel like we finally, you know, it's funny that you mentioned that this film is doing the same thing Beast Wars did for people who had kind of lost trust or faith in what the franchise was going, where the franchise was going. And I think that's a really important thing that people should consider. The fact that, you know, they realize, and I say this not only for them, not only for Paramount, but for a lot of other studios to take note of some of the things you've done in the past that have helped you move on into the future. And specifically DC, James Gunn, Safran, the idea that sometimes going back to the drawing board but taking notes of how it was done in the past can be very, very helpful. So Paramount learning from their past and being like, like you're saying, Beast Wars was the thing that relaunched it. It was a gamble. Who knew that kids would want to play with animal Transformers? I know when you know me, and a lot of people know me, I don't have any Beast Wars or BC Transformer action figures. It's not my bag. And that's me personally. That's fine. But I always love Transformers, and I always appreciate the engineering behind, especially the engineering, because I didn't collect any of those figures. Yeah. But the design and the engineering behind trying to like create animal figures or like animals that turn into robots is probably, and I would dare say definitely more difficult to design than a car, because a car is just turn it into a block with wheels at the bottom. The other one is turn it into an ape that has like a different standing and then turn it into a standing robot.
Especially when it's organic too. That's another thing too. Again, the Dinobots and stuff like that were very easy to take care of, because if something looks weird on that T-Rex, it's a robotic T-Rex. It's going to have this weird block on the end of its tail or something, Right.
So
they were able to, like, it's a credit to them, but to make the parallels like you were just mentioning before, even, Transformers came out in '84, and as time progressed, lost its way. Other brands became more popular and important. Right. I would have to say that the change really was the '90s with the Marvel cartoons and that stuff becoming really popular, mixture with Power Rangers emerging in '93. But they kind of lost their way and then had to reinvent itself for the modern audience. And it's kind of the same thing where Michael Bay 2007 movie comes out, and at that time there was no MCU. If you want to argue the Hulk movie, but there was no MCU.
Right.
I love it. Some people tell me that the Howard the Duck movie is part of the continuity now. So
I don't think that's
okay. Sure, I'll play around. Anyways, but the point is that so you start with the 2007 movie, and then all those MCU movies came out and got all the attention that the Michael Bay movies were just kind of running on autopilot in a lot of ways. They were still making money, don't get me wrong. They were still making toys that were selling, don't get me wrong. But I guess story-wise, they were kind of losing their way and not really having a direction. And now it's a chance to kind of get back that audience that might have like dropped off and said, you know what, like these movies are just too loud and confusing to follow. So why don't we, in the same way that Beast Wars kind of had to do something vastly different to build a new audience while still celebrating the past. If you watch the original Beast Wars show, it still celebrates the past of Transformers.
Right.
But it's the same thing here, where it's clearly like when you watch this trailer, the choice of the thumbnail for the trailer, it's them going, remember Monkey Guy?
Yeah.
And I always use that kind of vernacular. I always
simplify it all the way down.
You have to simplify it because the general audience, the general movie going audience that leaves their apartment, goes down to the movie theater and stares at the marquee, they make a decision based on sometimes one or two images and a feeling, And I remember, I think it was, which movie was it? I want to say it was Dark of the Moon. Hasbro sent me 25 tickets.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they said, well, originally it was supposed to be 3 tickets, right? They're like, we're sending you 3 tickets. Just go down to the Paramount downtown Montreal. Just say your name. The tickets are there waiting for you. It was a VIP screening, right? Cool. And it was pretty much me and a whole bunch of newspapers, everyone who does the reviews, right?
Right.
And I go to ask for the tickets, like, here you go. And they gave me a stack of 25. And I was like, what? And here I am going like, man, the movie's going to start in like 20 minutes. What do I do? So I was literally, there is people that they come to the movie theater and they stand at that marquee and they don't know what they're going to watch. They're just here.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do we want? And so I was literally going, hey, You can't decide what you're going to see. Here you go. You get to see it before everyone. And I was handing them out. I was like Santa Claus because people were so happy. You know, like now they didn't even have to spend whatever it was back then.
More on the popcorn and the drink.
Tickets.
Yeah.
So, but the point is that that's a reality. Is people come down to the movie theater and they're sometimes they don't have an intention. So if you're going to have a movie poster and it's going to have that monkey and that guy that's with his girlfriend's like, I remember that monkey. I love that monkey. Yeah. You know, like when I was a kid, I had that monkey. My mom went to KB Toys, rest in peace, and picked up that monkey for me, and then I lost it at my grandma's house.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and then like your cousin broke it when you were.
But that's just it. But those are powerful feelings.
Yeah, core memories, man.
And that's what carries a lot of this. For every Guardians of the Galaxy that's able to be something that doesn't have that nostalgia weight for the general audience and be successful, there's a lot of things that need that. Guardians, to be fair, had the Marvel machine behind it.
Yeah. Without the Marvel machine.
It's one of the few examples of something where not many people are like, man, I remember watching the Silver Surfer cartoon on Fox and Drax was there for 5 seconds. It's like, no. It's
a relatively unknown IP brought in to do something
from the mainstream perspective.
Right. And we all know that you wouldn't have been able to start the MCU with Guardians of the Galaxy. You could barely start it with Iron Man, but they figured out how to do it, and that worked well. But
it was something where the marketing guys sat down, and I'm talking Transformers again here, and they were in this situation where they're like, what's the target demo? 25 to 35. You do okay. Target demo 25 to 35. What did they grow up with? And then you shift that time and you go, oh, we're in the mid to late 90s now. That's why Pokemon's doing so well.
Oh,
that's
insane. Why. Yeah. And I was going to say to you, Barbie coming out July 2023, a month after Transformers, I really do feel like it's going to be after school, like in the 90s, because you had Transformers, you had Barbie, you had G.I. Joe, and Barbie, you had Gem.
Barbie had a huge movie franchise, like direct to DVD stuff during that late 90s, early 2000s with Mainframe. So, as two guys, we might not be able to associate with that, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of girls that grew up in the 90s who were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old in that DVD boom and direct market boom that was a part of their childhood, and so, and not to mention Barbie, to be fair, is an evergreen brand. It's always going to be around. It's like
one of the smartest brands. It's like the characters.
Like Hot Wheels. It never goes away. Yeah. It's just, it'll always be there. There'll always be a Hot Wheels McDonald's promotion. They don't need a TV show. They don't need they're always they always find a way to be in pop culture, even if they're not in pop culture currently. And Barbie is always it's just now they're kind of going the next step because they see how there's money to be made with these movies. There is. And then from those movies, then there's a term in the toy industry which is called an imprint. And an imprint is when you go, okay, we got Batman. And Batman's really popular. How do we then make a Batman movie, which then will make Batman action figures? And then the success of this Batman movie and these Batman action figures lead to a Batman the Animated Series. Those create the imprints that normally would not happen if you didn't have that first part. If you didn't have that first Michael Keaton movie and then the Batman Returns, the domino effect of that would have never led to the animated series happening.
Right.
And then the entire animated DC universe. DCAU. So and it's the same thing where a Barbie movie could be super successful. And then they go, well, this was super successful. Let's do a TV series and a toy line based on this movie. And then the success of this toy line and this movie could then lead to a TV series that's based in that universe. And then it creates those imprints and And from a business perspective, that's very valuable to you when you're trying to license out product, make money, and get people interested in Barbie again. Because maybe there was a drop off. Maybe kids wanted Bratz or they wanted
there definitely was
Surprise. I'm not an expert in this. I'm just shooting it out there.
But you're not wrong. There definitely was a drop off for Barbie. Like there's a bunch of other IPs that came out because there's going to be, as much as the nostalgia for Barbie is big, I feel like the nostalgia wave for Barbie started like 5-6 years ago. Like here in Montreal, we have that Coleman Royal for those of you
the Barbie
who know.
Museum.
Yeah, the Barbie Museum, and that was there for a while ago, and that I remember seeing all these people taking pictures and celebrating.
Right now.
Yeah. It's crazy to think
you could go there and do drugs and no one would know, you know?
exactly. But that's what I'm more like, with this movie coming out and with Transformers coming out, you really do get the sense that, and I know people have been talking about it for a minute, that the 90s are back. And I get like, as for me, it's kind of crazy to hear that because I still do feel genuinely like I'm in the 90s sometimes because when you become a teenager and you develop your mind in that era, it's hard not to think of things in relation to that period of time because it like you were saying, there's so many imprints of not even just the stuff you love, not even just the music, not even just the television, not even just the comic books, but just the world itself as an idea. Like the other day, the world crossed the 8 billion people mark, and I'm remembering being in school with you and finding out we're at 6 billion, and we're like, like you remember hearing 6 billion. And so when you hear 8 billion, you're like, fuck, we made 2 billion more of these. Like, what are we doing? It's like
slow
a
down.
crazy time. But hey, all this to say,
but it's just this whole movie is it's all smart marketing. It's all them going like, I mean, all you have to do is like go, hey, there was, like if you just look at everything, not just Transformers, but everything that has come out in the past, like let's say 5 years, pre-COVID and post, it's all been stuff that leans into, hey kids, remember when you watched Full House? Remember? Hey, remember Roseanne in the 90s? And and think about it, if you think about the timing when those shows came out, Fuller House and The Connors, those were stuff that came out 5 years ago, early 90s. Now we're in mid to late 90s because that's how it works with the marketing. It's this sliding timeline that one day it's going to be the early 2000 kids time.
I was going to say,
and they're going to be like, yo, where's my Jackie Chan Adventures reboot?
And I just want to say to the early 2000 kids, before we start wrapping up soon, I don't want to see your era again because I didn't like it the first time, and I don't expect to like it.
You know what? That's us being jaded college and university kids watching their television, going like, "Oh, this stuff's crap. It's not as good as we do it." But I get it though. But I get it. That's kind of the secret to the sauce, is that you always have to shift that timeline because that's the market and that's the audience. Where I think movie studios really learned their lesson in the early 90s, where they're like, we're going to do, like, what happened was the Batman movie 89 came out. And then literally the year after that was Ninja Turtles. And those two movies came out, the live action one. And those two movies came out and they were based off of comic books. This is the perspective of the movie studios, not us going, oh, it's the cartoons that carry Turtles. And Batman 66 that made people go see, Batman. Because at that point, that's what was pop culture that made Batman. Ninja Turtles. It wasn't the comics. Although, some people are going to argue that with me, but yeah. So movie studios looked at 89 Batman, blockbuster success, Ninja Turtles, blockbuster success, #1 selling independent movie at the time by Golden Harvest. And they went, well, we got to get in on this. And they went to their ivory tower in Hollywood and all these like old dudes and went, remember Dick Tracy? And the Phantom? and it's like they were pulling from the 50s and the 60s and the 40s when they should have went, all right, who's the age 25 to 35 in the 90s? And then they could have pulled stuff from the 70s. If they would have done a Charlie's Angels movie maybe back then, it probably would have been successful.
Oh, interesting. Yes, I can see
that. But that's why the Dick Tracy movie didn't do and all this, because they didn't have the knowledge of the marketing that they have now today. And it's like when Dick Tracy the movie came out, anyone who remembered reading those comics back then was like 50. It's
funny
like,
enough, though,
hey, Grandpa, you want to go see Dick Tracy? My back hurts.
But funny enough, you and I both, you like Dick Tracy. I know I like Dick Tracy.
But I'm a comic book guy. There's a difference there.
That's fair.
That movie aesthetically was pleasing to me.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
And it's the same thing with even the Flash Gordon movie in the 80s. You know what I mean?
Right.
I never want to use myself as an example because #1, I believe I have terrible taste. I'm going to start with that. Some of the things that I like, no one should ever like. But so it's like my love of certain 90s toy lines. People go like, "What's wrong with you?" Like King Arthur and the Knights of Justice, Biker Mice from Mars, Cowboys of Moo Mesa, Mummies Alive. What's wrong with you? But it's just at the same time, like I get it. I understand where they're going with this, like with Beast Wars and stuff. And it's already, you could already see the gears kind of moving because they just recently put out a Monopoly Beast Wars Monopoly. The licensing is starting to go in. There's going to be cups and bed sheets and stuff like that.
Do you
which
think
is
they'll go Lego again?
Where the big money comes from.
Do you think they'll go Lego again, like with the Optimus?
What I think with the Lego thing is they did the Prime.
Yeah.
They'll maybe do a Bumblebee.
Okay.
That one's a tougher one because and that's geez, why do I forget his name right now? The guy who worked on the Lego Optimus was a former Hasbro employee.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Oh, Aaron Archer's going to kill me because we talk about him all the time. But anyways, the point is, so he kind of influenced that happening. And if you're going to do one, you're going to do Optimus Prime. You know, like it's same thing with Lego. You are targeting a mainstream audience. You're not targeting a hardcore Transformer fan audience. You know, so maybe we'll see. It's hard to say. The success of this movie will truly steer the ship of what they then do next.
Is his name Joseph Kide?
Oh, Joe Kide. There we go.
Kide.
Thank you.
There we go. Yeah,
Joe Kide. He worked with Transformers for many years. He was the color layout guy. And then after that, they just literally he went on and did his own thing. He worked for Play-Doh for a bit, and then he started working at Lego. He was doing the Minecraft stuff, which was ridiculously successful for them. Yeah. And then, hey guys, how about we do a Transformer? You know, and they're like, Hasbro was willing to play ball, and it worked out for everybody at that point. So it sold very well, even though it's, you know, now it's it's in clearance in some areas, but
but whatever. We all wanted one. Okay, Proto Man, final thoughts.
Yes.
Before we sign off, what are you thinking about this film? What are you excited for? What do you want to see?
I hope that, and again, this is just a hope. I hope there's a good balance of character interact, because I understand you have to have the humans. You can't take the sugar out of the cake. It's just not a cake. It's like so sometimes the thing that's bad for it, in your opinion, you can't take it out. Because then it's just you can't. So the humans have to be there. I just hope that there's a good human character interaction. It's very clear that Noah and Mirage have some kind of, partnership there. So hopefully there's something there. The girl with RC, hopefully there's some kind of dynamic there that way, because the one thing with the Bay movies that also didn't really find their place was the character that was always interacting with Sam Witwicky surprisingly was the one who didn't speak,
Elena Wallace, by the way, is the
there you go
character. Yeah, she was in that movie with Jamie Foxx on Netflix a couple years ago. Really good actress.
So it's something where you have the Michael Bay movies where Sam was the main character, but the robot that he was always interacting with didn't talk.
Yeah.
So it made it difficult to do characterization. What was Bumblebee's character across all those movies? We don't know.
Yeah.
Was he sassy? Was he sarcastic? Was he, we don't, and that's kind of sad when you think about that, considering some of those movies are 3 hours long and there's 5 of them, and you still can't answer that question. Yet you could get 10 minutes of Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man, you know exactly who we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So it's come on. And so that was a big, so hopefully Mirage will have a good character interaction with Noah, RC, with Elena, and then maybe Primal, we'll see his back and forth with Optimus Prime, so we'll get to know how that character is. That's what we want. We want to have that we could look at these toys and we associate characters with them, because even us adult collectors, we're buying statue representations of these characters to put on our shelving, but we also want to imprint what those characters are to us, instead of it just being, why do you have that movie Sideswipe figure? Oh, it's a cool design. I like the Corvette. You want it to mean not that he had that one line in the movie where he said, "Darn, I'm good," or "Damn, I'm good." And that's all there is to him. So you want to always have a little more than that. And I think that's why people connected so much with the Marvel movies, was because everyone was characters. Thor was a character. Hulk was a character. Iron Man was a character.
Black Widow.
Steve Rogers in his bread and butter was a character. And it's something where that's what was missing. You know, everyone who liked Optimus Prime in those movies was putting G1 Prime in their head when they were listening to Peter Cullen's voice.
100%. 100%.
They weren't looking at the actions and the character development within those movies. They were just going, well, I remember Peter Cullen's Optimus Prime in the 86 movie and they just kind of attach it to that. Where all the other characters, it's like, who is who? Like, the sad thing is like, you know who got the most character development and screen time? Like the twins from Revenge of the Fallen, which a lot of people are kind of
problematic. Yeah, like you, and that was the thing. I feel like there's a lot of times, and I'll end with my notes too, but I feel like there's a lot of times when they make these movies that the thought is we have to make this film something that's accessible to the general public, and obviously that's important. I think what they did sometimes, though, is they didn't consider that the general public is smarter than they think. I think sometimes
more than ever.
Oh my God, more than ever. They sometimes dumb things down
this goes
so
back to
much.
what I said before. When the first movie came out, it's very different than what came afterwards, because that first Iron Man movie came out, then the MCU, and then everyone became a geek.
Yeah.
And then the second everyone became a geek, and then this came out. And then now all so many things happened from that first movie that they didn't catch up with that. Going like, no, people know more than you think now.
Yeah.
You know, so you could kind of, but you know, and Marvel recognized that. Marvel was able to put this thing in the background and go, oh, that's an Easter egg from that and da, you know?
Yeah.
Like, let's look at Thor in the backgrounds of, like, you know, Asgard, and there's going to be all these throwbacks and stuff.
Like,
people are a lot smarter now. People love going on YouTube and watching content creators that talk about those Easter eggs. No plug here. But, or for this channel or mine, it's something where it gets to a point that it's all symbiotic.
Yeah.
People go to see the movie and then they then go to watch, you know, what's it called there? What's the one where they put the X's for trailers, like where they make mistakes in oh my God. Forget that show.
Yeah. I can't remember right now, but
from Screen Rant or whatever. But the point is that, you know, so then they go on and then they watch a content creator talk about the movie and what they thought they might have missed when they saw it in
dives and stuff like that.
People are much more engaged now with movies, even movies that aren't intended to be like your superhero pop culture thing. You know, when you go to watch something like Avatar, people are going to go back and watch people talking about, like, oh, here's what happened, this scene and that scene, how it relates to the giant part of the lore and a throwback to the first movie and So to me, I think it's going to do very well. That's just number one. And we didn't address it here. We talked about it before we went live, but this is the number one viewed trailer right now.
Oh yeah, you were saying
2022, like easily. It destroyed Guardians of the Galaxy. I feel sorry for Indiana Jones, how bad Indiana Jones did in comparison, but I think again, it's a product.
Indiana Jones is one of those Dick Tracy nostalgias.
Yeah, it's a product of its time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's George Lucas doing, you know, his, like, I think George Lucas, I feel like George Lucas saw the old Shazam serials from the 50s. Indiana Jones had a little bit of that with.
Interesting.
I know people, if you saw like the old Shazam 50. It's on, I think it's on Tubi or something. You'll see what I mean. It's in black and white. It's really old. But, you know, it's that whole, you know, swashbuckle, like, you know, going through caverns and finding stuff. But anyways, I just feel that this movie's going to do very well. There's clearly a lot of interest from the public. Yeah. Again, the marketing at a younger demo that could identify with that stuff. And I feel that it's just as much interest and intrigue that people had when they were going into the 2007 movie.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to have just as much viewership, but I think that people, it's fresh now again.
Yeah.
You know, and like I tried to say before, you know, we had a new Transformer movie every second year since 2007.
Right.
And then when COVID happened, there was a gap.
Right.
And I think also there's an old Dusty Rhodes, the old wrestler, used to say it, you can't miss me if I'm not gone.
Right.
And I think that's what happened is they were gone long enough that people went, you know what, I'm tired of these Marvel movies. DC's kind of funky right now. And I'm not excited about XYZ. I'm watching everything on Netflix. And then Transformers is like, hey, we've been gone for a hot minute.
Yeah.
And they're kind of going like, hey, maybe we'll check out Transformers. It's been a while.
Yeah, here's a good nerd throwback.
And then it has the monkey. Remember the monkey. So it's always back to that, in my opinion. It's like, hey, remember I remember the monkey.
That's funny.
So that audience now could engage with that.
Yeah.
Because it's as much as it's easy to watch a G1 episode on YouTube, as much as it's easy to find any content really now with streaming on YouTube, nostalgia is a powerful tool that makes people see things through rose-tinted glasses that sometimes aren't very good. And that's a powerful tool used for marketing. And the movie might be garbage, and I've said this many times before, people always say like, oh, this movie didn't do well because it was bad. And I say, I don't understand that logic, because you don't know it's bad until the ticket's bought. And if no one even showed up day one, you got to trick them. And if you didn't trick them, then you should fire the marketing guy.
Yeah, your marketing team didn't convince people,
because they didn't even trick people to go see.
They didn't even
trick people to go see certain movies. People were just disinterested from trailer. And then the movie could then go on to be a great movie. It was super cerebral, and now it's a cult classic, which happens all the time.
Of course,
no one even went to see some of those movies. So I rather that it be a well-written movie and no one sees it than it be a terribly written movie and everyone sees it. So I hope that we have this beautiful marriage of it's a great movie and everyone sees it, so that way it gives Hasbro confidence to move forward with Paramount and do more stuff with the brand, because Lord knows they got to build more stuff for that Paramount Plus platform that they have a good relationship with. There was worry because Hasbro CEO Brian Goldner passed away a couple of years ago. No, I want to say 2 years ago. And he was a big connection with Paramount. And when he passed away, there was worries that would break that connection.
Strong.
But luckily, they're still marching forward with that with their new CEO. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, but at the same time, I'm really curious to see how this does. But I think personally, it's going to do very well, just judging by the hype behind it. And when you have people that are not Transformer fans talking about it, then you go, And again, and the other thing is when you have it doing better than a Guardians of the Galaxy, it makes me go, oh, there's something here then.
That's important. Proto-Man, I want to thank you again so much. It was a great conversation. Great talking with you. People, you can just look up Proto-Man. If you guys are watching this, a lot of you probably came over here through his tweets and his social medias. If you're new to this channel, thank you for tuning in, Proto-Man. I've known you since
hit that subscribe button.
Yes. Hit the subscribe, hit the like,
button and the bell.
Share it with friends. Tell everyone you know. GeektastiqCypha is on every Wednesday at 7 p.m. We're going to be continuing throughout.
They do good pop culture. Go through their archives. They have a lot of different stuff.
Not
just robots in the skies. It's everything.
Classic geek show that I'm pretty sure you'd all appreciate. We also have a bunch of different podcasts if you're watching this on YouTube, we have a bunch of different podcasts that you can check out. Chop Vision podcast. We have The Dumbest Timeline. We have The Morning Detour. So you guys can check it out. Get your fix for all the stuff, geek content, pop culture, zeitgeisty stuff. And man, Proto-Man, once again, thank you so much. And we look forward to having you back on GeektastiqCypha sometime soon.
Anytime, my friend.
All right. Peace, everybody.
Enjoy.
Happy holidays.